Jill Stein's on.
Okay, we're going live to Jill Stein.
Everything. And that is what we are doing. From living wage campaigns, which we are winning across the country. From the pipeline blockades, which we are winning. From the fight to make Black Lives Matter, which to the fight to cancel predatory student loan debt. We are a movement that is united and a movement for transformational change. And that movement is deep, broad, and wide. And that movement takes its cue from you in so many ways, because you have said that politics, as usual, is over and done. And our meeting here today is the beginning of how we go forward. And I am so grateful to all of you and to the organizers here today for bringing us together as a kind of counter-convention. A real people's convention that will be happening over the course of this next week out here in the streets. And thank you for kicking us off and for starting us on this very powerful journey this week and onward into the rest of the future. I want to say a couple of the ways in which we are so powerful, because the system as it is tries to tell us that we are marginal, that we don't count, and in so many ways they are trying to bury this transformational movement that you have accomplished. Well, we have news for them. We are not going away, we are only stronger. Because this economic crisis that we are fighting is not getting better, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is what they point to for how we're going to change our economy, will make the struggle more intense. It will only intensify our resistance. The fight to make Black Lives Matter is not going away. It is getting stronger across this country, and the terrible blowback against innocent police is a tragedy. But in order to solve that tragedy, we have to stop this fundamental, centuries-long tragedy of the assault on African American lives. We are all in the crosshairs of this violent and racist community, country. And in order to stop this violence, we must stop the racism. And in order to stop the racism, we not only you hear someone say, oh, this is just an isolated problem of police violence, it is not. We need a deep and transformative solution, because right now the African American family has 5 cents on the dollar of the wealth of a Caucasian family. That is unacceptable and violent. We have built-in racist violence in our school system, like right here in Philadelphia, where the schools have been closed in the African American communities, like all over the country, where high-stakes testing and privatization and charterization is used as an opportunity to hijack our public resources, especially in the vulnerable communities of color, and to turn them over to private industry. We say no And before I leave the subject, there's another crisis out there, very much related to the immigration crisis. And of course, the other thing we have to do to solve the immigration crisis is provide not just a path to citizenship, but a welcoming path to citizenship. Saudis as the major funder still of Sunni jihadi terror around the world. We started it. We can stop it. This is just to underscore to you that not only do we have the moral authority to transform the world in front of us, we actually have the solutions to this crisis. One other solution I should be sure to mention on this very hot day and yet another heat wave is the solution to the climate crisis. When people say to me, but aren't you afraid of Donald Trump? I say, no, I am afraid of climate change. And you know, probably as well as I do, that even under a Democratic White House with 2 Democratic houses of Congress, we did not begin to solve the problem of climate change. We created a Trojan horse for the fossil fuel industry in the form of all of the above, which turned out to be drill, baby, drill on steroids. That's why we are calling for 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. We call this a Green New Deal, like the New Deal that got us out of the Great Depression. But in this case, it solves not only the economic emergency, it solves the climate emergency. When Pearl Harbor was bombed at the outset of the Second World War, people didn't sit around and wring their hands and say, oh, we just can't find the political will to deal with this emergency. No, they totally transformed the economy. In the course of 6 months is how long it took to go from 0 to 60 miles an hour to respond to the emergency of the Second World War. Well, the emergency we're facing now makes Pearl Harbor look like small potatoes. Just about one harbor, we are talking about all harbors all around the world and all population centers on the coast. What the science tells us, and this is both Jim Hansen as well as this recent study that NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, mouthful, what they described just a couple weeks ago, and this was not covered in mainstream press at all, but NOAA will roll out the written reports about this soon. This was just a verbal report. And what the senior scientist from NOAA said was that we, on the pathway we're on, which has only gotten worse under Democrats in the White House and in Congress, under both Democrats and Republicans, we have never, it's not getting better. I hope everybody knows that in this room. It is accelerating. The rate of increase is getting worse. It's not getting better. This problem will not be solved by political parties that are on the payroll of predatory banks. The emergency transformation that this crisis actually demands. That means transforming by 2030, in less than 15 years, to 100% clean renewable energy, 100% healthy, sustainable food system. job starting now, to a job and a secure economic future and a secure economic future in the United States. Number one, when we have 100% renewable energy, when we have 100% renewable energy, we can no longer justify 1,000 bases in over 100 countries around the world. So we save so much money. From cutting the military budget, cutting the government military budget, it makes us more in danger. It makes us more in danger. We cut $500 billion into true security here, into true security here at home, in our housing, in our schools. These crises we face, and we are the only ones who can solve them. We are the ones who can solve them. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Coffee, perfect, donor coffee, puppets, donors, super puppets. My campaign is super puppets campaign. My campaign continues that tradition. Continues that clean money, small true, clean money, small donors. We are not taking marching orders. I want you to walk out of here feeling so confident about our ability to win this, not only in the streets, not only in our workplaces, not only on social movements that we are fighting for, but we actually have the capacity to win this in the voting booth. And let me tell you how, in very concrete terms. Right now, there are 42 million young people and not so young people trapped into predatory student loan debt. That is a winning plurality of the vote. And there's only one candidate that will cancel that debt, and you're looking at her. So the name of the game, and by the way, that doesn't have to go through Congress. The president has the power by appointing the chair of the Federal Reserve to do what they did for the crooks on Wall Street. So just by getting the word out, millennials are really good at getting the word out. Burners are really good at getting the word out. We can actually get the word out to those 42 million people. My campaign has come up in the polls from 2% a few weeks ago to 6 and even 7% in the poll. The corporate media has not given us one dime of free coverage. So how is the word getting out? It is getting out through the social networks. That's how we got up to 6 and 7%. We tripled our numbers. If we just double our numbers again, we meet the threshold